does the weather affect the way that composers make their music? Dr. Paul Williams, Royal Society University Research Fellow at the University of Reading, has been looking into this. Paul, welcome to the Other One Show.
Thanks, Ronnie. Hi.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I picked up on this myself. And of course, we're all prone to, we talk about the winter blues. Of course, that's going to affect artists and musicians.
I think that's right, and there's been a lot of study, actually, of people like painters being influenced by the weather. You just have to think of Monet and Constable. But of course, when it's the visual arts you're talking about, it's pretty clear when someone's trying to represent the weather, because they paint a big cloud, for example, or a rainstorm. When it's done in music, it's much more subtle than that.
The way the mood thing is one as well. That if you're in the summer, am I right in saying that probably the music's bound to be much more upbeat? You're feeling much better about yourself.
I think that's right, and there is certainly some evidence we found in the study that it's the particular environmental conditions where you are that affect your compositional output. So composers in warmer climates tend to write sort of happier music, and composers who live where you get battered by a different storm every day of the week tend to write music about storms.
I was thinking about Heston Blumenthal for a second, Paul.
That's not what I was expecting.
You know how he's always saying he tries to get the whole experience. He'll try and get you even get to listen to things while you're eating. And I wonder if composers have ever put a restriction on where their music's supposed to be heard.
That's an excellent question, and I have to say I don't know off the top of my head. I think composers tend not to be that fussy in many cases, and are just glad their music's being heard by anyone, anywhere. I'll have to look into that, though. That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good one. There's a paper waiting to be done, Paul.
That's a follow-up paper.
Yeah, it's a good... Because, if we go into a prolonged period of bad weather, we'll get global warming and everything happening, and we get extremes of weather now, then that's going to affect the psyche of a composer.
That's what we are hypothesising, and we perhaps hope that our study, and I should say it's work done with Karen Aplin from the University of Oxford, we perhaps hope that our study will set a benchmark, a sort of reference point, and that perhaps towards the middle or the end of the century someone will do a follow-up, and this is speculation here, but it's possible that as the climate warms, and in particular as it gets wetter in many parts of the world, perhaps we'll see more representations of storms. And perhaps, for example, at the last night of the Proms, when we sing Land of Hope and Glory, maybe at the end of the century we'll be singing Land of Storms and Flooding or something. I mean, I'm speculating, but it's quite interesting to think about the wider consequences.
Well, I'm going to ask the listeners, Paul, in a second, about the instruments that convey a certain kind of weather pattern. The music, when you get an organ, that kind of that heavy, that kind of just sounds like clouds coming in, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And that kind of thing. And then if you got a guitar, or kind of slightly wailing, that can be the wind as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's even a special instrument called a wind machine. You don't hear it very often, but it's a sort of drum, a cylindrical drum that's covered in silk, and the person who plays it, I don't even know if you should call this person a musician, but anyway, they sit and rotate the drum around, and it makes a sort of howling sound. So that's a literal way of getting music. But in conventional orchestral music, it's people plucking violin strings, for example, to mimic the sound of raindrops.
There you go. And maybe the bongos will make a return to the world of music. Paul, great to talk to you. Dr. Paul Williams, Royal Society University Research Fellow, University of Reading. Right, in the next half hour, we will ask you to come up with accidental weather. We know that you've got your Walking on Sunshines and all that. What about accidental weather tunes? Accidental weather tunes. Tunes that we could actually say, that's a weather tune.
Herts and Bucks Travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.